You get the email. We'd love to do a quick phone screen before scheduling a full interview.
Oh, yeah, that email.
Right. So you reply, you set a time, and then, 10 minutes before the call, you're just staring at your phone.
Just waiting for it to ring.
Exactly. It's not that you're unprepared, but staring at that piece of glass, waiting for it to ring, feels remarkably like preparing for a blind date where the other person happens to hold your mortgage.
That is painfully accurate.
The stakes just feel bizarrely disproportionate to the format. I mean, they aren't going to see you, they aren't going to see your body language, yet this tiny audio-only window determines your entire career trajectory at that company.
It really does. It's a very distinct psychological environment.
So today, we are taking a deep dive into the high-stakes, uniquely challenging world of the professional phone interview. We've brought together a stack of sources for this internal HR research, recruiter playbooks, tactical role-play transcripts. Basically, we want to figure out exactly what to say when that phone finally connects.
And these sources don't just offer, generic advice. They provide a really comprehensive structural framework for taking control of the audio-only dynamic.
Which is exactly what we need.
Okay.
The mission for this deep dive is simple. We want to equip you with a foolproof, step-by-step strategy to conquer that phone screen.
From the absolute first second you answer the call.
Right. All the way to navigating the dreaded salary negotiation without, mathematically boxing yourself into a corner. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Before we get into the exact words you should be using, we really need to understand the constraints of the battlefield itself. Why are recruiters still relying on a simple phone call?
That's a great question.
I mean, my assumption is that in a post-remote work world, wouldn't everyone just default to a quick video chat just to get a better read on the candidate?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But it actually comes down to the cognitive load and the sheer volume of candidates HR is processing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. A phone screen is typically this short, 20 to 45-minute conversation. And its purpose is purely to confirm basic viability. They want to check your background and availability before the company invests the resources in a full, multi-round video interview.
So it's a filter.
Exactly. And because they are often screening dozens of people a week, the recruiter's attention is highly fragmented. They might be walking between buildings or, they might be driving.
Or staring at 3 different monitors trying to pull up your resume while slacking a hiring manager.
Literally that. So the lack of video isn't just a technological choice. It's a boundary they set to manage their own efficiency.
That makes so much sense. Which means, from the candidate's perspective, we can't rely on visual cues to smooth over any rough edges.
Nope, none at all.
Like, if I start rambling in a video interview, a warm smile or an engaged nod might compensate for my lack of structure. But on a phone call, if I ramble, all the recruiter experiences is a wall of disorganized noise.
Words carry 100% of the weight here. And because of that fragmented attention on the recruiter's end, your conciseness isn't just a courtesy, it's an absolute requirement for comprehension.
Wow. So you really have to be tight with your language.
You do. The sources actually emphasize that candidates frequently fall into the trap of treating this like a casual chat.
Because the recruiter sounds so nice.
Right. The recruiter often uses a very friendly, informal tone to put you at ease. But make no mistake, this is a highly formal evaluation masked as a quick catch-up.
Okay, so you can't fake verbal precision in the moment when the adrenaline hits, which means it has to be engineered beforehand.
It absolutely does. You need to prepare.
And our sources dive deep into this preparation phase. So assuming you already know your basic metrics, your availability, your notice period, which is how much time you need to give your current employer, and your salary range.
Right, the basics.
The bulk of the strategy revolves around developing your talking points.
Yeah.
But here is my instinct. If I'm nervous and I know it's an audio-only format, I just want to open a document on my laptop and script out exactly what I want to say.
I mean, it is incredibly tempting.
Right. If they can't see me, why wouldn't I just read a perfectly crafted script?
The HR playbooks we are analyzing explicitly warn against this. Do not do it.
Wait, really? Why not?
The reason is rooted in how the human ear detects cadence. When you read a pre-written script, your cognitive processing shifts. Your intonation completely flattens out.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, your pacing becomes unnaturally consistent, and you lose those subtle micro-hesitations that characterize genuine human thought.
You essentially sound like an automated customer service menu.
Precisely. And psychologically sounding robotic completely destroys the illusion of natural competence.
Because a recruiter is evaluating you not just on your history, but on how you might communicate with a client, right?
Exactly, or a cross-functional team. If you
Hmm.
sound like you're reading a teleprompter, you project insecurity, not authority.
Okay, so what are talking points then if they aren't a script?
The framework defines talking points as modular anchors. You want bullet points. You want a list of key metrics or a few core themes you plan to highlight.
But you force your brain to formulate the actual sentences in the moment.
Yes, this ensures you retain a dynamic, conversational energy in your voice.
Got it. You're building a structural outline, not writing a screenplay. Okay, so you've got your bulleted talking points in front of you. You've researched the company's recent news. The phone actually rings.
Here we go.
The sources suggest a simple professional greeting like, "Hi, this is Name." But then they flag a very specific logistical hurdle that happens in the first 10 seconds. The "is this a good time?" question.
Right. And if it is a good time, you just respond warmly and confidently, yes, I'm glad we could connect.
But life is chaotic.
Or,
Sometimes they call 20 minutes late, or your previous meeting ran over, or you're stuck in a noisy transit hub.
the sources emphasize protecting the environment of the interview above all else.
So do not try to whisper your way through a career-defining call while hiding in a supply closet.
Please don't. That immediately frames you as disorganized or frantic.
So what's the exact phrase if it's a genuinely bad time?
You politely take control. You say something like, I'm so sorry, I'm just transitioning between meetings. Could I call you back in exactly 20 minutes at a better number?
Oh, wow. That actually establishes professional boundaries. It shows you respect their time enough to ensure you can give them your full attention.
It does, it demonstrates agency. But let's assume the environment is perfect. You settle in, and then they deploy the most common yet strategically complex, open-ended question of the entire process.
Ah, yes. Walk me through your background.
It is a massive trap.
It really is, because the instinct is chronological. You want to start from the very beginning to prove how much experience you have.
Right, starting with your university degree and plodding through every role you've ever held.
But our sources are rigid on this. The ideal length for this answer is strictly 90 seconds to 2 minutes, which begs the question, why 90 seconds?
It comes down to recency bias and narrative momentum. The recruiter's working memory is limited. They don't need your origin story.
They just need to know if your current trajectory aligns with their open headcount.
Exactly. So the framework provides a strict three-part sequence to exploit this. Most recent role, leading into a key achievement, leading into what you were looking for now.
Most recent role, achievement, future goal. Let's actually look at the role play transcript from the sources to see this in action. We have a scenario between a recruiter, Morgan, and a candidate named Taylor.
Let's hear it.
So when Morgan asks to walk through their background, notice how Taylor doesn't even mention their degree. Taylor immediately anchors the listener in the present, saying, "I've spent the last 4 years in B2B sales, most recently at a SaaS company focused on HR software."
Perfect. Taylor establishes immediate relevance. And then instead of listing boring job duties, Taylor pivots straight to a metric-driven achievement. In my last role, I grew my territory by about 30% year over year.
That solves the chronological trap beautifully. By anchoring in the present and dropping a hard metric, you stop the recruiter from tuning out.
Right.
But the smartest move here is the third step. Taylor connects that past success directly into a future goal, one that magically aligns with the company they are interviewing for.
Yes. Taylor says, I'm now looking for a role with a larger enterprise focus, which is exactly what drew me to your company.
Here's where it gets really interesting. That third step is where the true leverage lies.
It totally shifts the power dynamic. When Morgan follows up and asks why our company specifically, Taylor uses the research they did beforehand to build a bridge.
Right. Taylor notes the company's recent expansions into the European market and casually mentions having managed enterprise clients in Germany in a previous role.
So Taylor took a generic background question and engineered it into a targeted pitch.
It goes from, "I am looking for a job," to, "I have a highly specific tested skill set that solves the logistical problem your executive team is currently agonizing over."
And doing all of that in under 2 minutes respects the recruiter's cognitive load. It is the ultimate display of narrative control.
But of course, a phone screen is an interactive process. You can control the opening, but you cannot control what the recruiter asks next.
Very true.
Navigating the potholes, confusing questions or queries requiring specific data you don't have memorized, that's where the real test of composure happens.
And what's your historical instinct in those moments?
Oh, especially on an audio-only call where silence feels deafening. I just start talking. If they ask a complex question, I start babbling a semi-coherent answer immediately just to fill the dead air so they don't think the call dropped.
Which the sources heavily advise against.
Right. Because rushing to speak usually results in answering the wrong question or exposing your own anxiety.
Exactly. You have to learn to manage what we can call auditory white space.
Auditory white space. I like that.
Time perception on a phone call is heavily distorted. When you are sitting there thinking, 3 seconds of silence feels like an absolute eternity to your nervous system.
It really does.
But to the recruiter, who is likely multitasking, a 3-second pause sounds completely normal. In fact, it sounds authoritative.
It frames the upcoming answer the way a mat frames a painting. It signals that what follows is considered and deliberate.
And the sources give us exact phrases to carve out this white space.
Let's hear them.
If the question is poorly phrased, instead of guessing, you just manage the communication. You say, could you clarify what you mean by X? Or, just to make sure I understand, are you asking about the strategic side or the execution side?
You force them to refine their own prompt.
Exactly. And if the question is perfectly clear but complex, you audibly buy the time you need. You say, that's a great question. Let me think for a moment.
Adding that pause literally demonstrates analytical thinking. It shows you are immune to being easily flustered.
It's a huge confidence signal.
But let's take it a step further. What if pausing doesn't help because you genuinely lack the information? Like, they ask for the exact retention rate of a specific cohort 3 years ago, and your mind goes entirely blank.
It happens to the best of us.
Does admitting ignorance on a screening call automatically disqualify you?
Only if you stop at the admission of ignorance. The framework provides a pivot technique here. You gracefully admit the gap, but you instantly transition into your problem-solving methodology.
So what's the phrase for that?
You say, I don't have that specific metric in front of me, but I can follow up with that detail after our call. Or, for a situational gap, you say, that exact scenario is outside my daily scope, but here is the diagnostic framework I would use to approach finding the solution.
That's incredibly reassuring. You are showing them your cognitive engine, even when you don't have the immediate fuel to put in it.
You prove you don't shut down when you hit a wall.
All right, so you've navigated the tricky questions, the tone is positive, and then the recruiter drops the heaviest question of the call.
The salary question.
It's the moment where the vast majority of candidates surrender their leverage without even realizing it. The salary trap. They ask, what are your salary expectations?
This is the absolute danger zone. The sources emphasize a mathematical reality of hiring budgets here. The moment you name a single figure first, you have anchored the negotiation against yourself.
Let's break down the economics of that. Because my natural inclination, if I want to avoid tension but still protect myself, is to just give a massively wide range.
Right.
Like if I want $100,000, I might say, I'm looking for somewhere between $80,000 and $130,000, assuming that shows flexibility.
It shows flexibility, but it mathematically anchors you to the bottom.
Really?
Yes. If the recruiter has a budget of $110,000 and they hear your range starts at $80,000, they will immediately note $80,000 in your file.
Ouch.
You just voluntarily surrendered $30,000 potential earning power before they'd even assessed your full value.
But conversely, if you blurt out $130,000 as a hard requirement, you might price yourself out of the process entirely, even if they would have stretched the budget later after realizing you were the perfect fit.
Exactly. So giving a single number is fatal, and giving a wide range is risky.
The sources outline a few ways to handle this. You can deflect entirely by saying you are open to hearing their range based on the role's responsibilities. But the most sophisticated approach is what they call the counter-ask.
Which we see executed perfectly in the role-play transcript. Let's look at how Taylor handles this.
Yeah. When Morgan asks for salary expectations, Taylor doesn't offer a number. Nor does Taylor aggressively refuse.
Taylor says, I'm flexible. Could you share the budgeted range for this position? I want to make sure it works for both sides.
I want to make sure it works for both sides. That last sentence is the linchpin of the whole strategy, isn't it?
What's fascinating here is how it frames the conversation. If Taylor had just said, what's your budget? It would sound combative. It sounds like a standoff.
But by attaching that collaborative justification, Taylor completely neutralizes the tension.
It is brilliant framing. It positions the candidate not as a subordinate begging for a paycheck, but as a professional peer evaluating a mutual business transaction.
You are explicitly telling the recruiter, we are both here to solve a problem. Let's see if the math makes sense to continue our partnership.
And it works. Morgan reveals the hand first, stating the range is $90K to $110K.
And Taylor simply replies, "That works well for me." Taylor hasn't committed to the bottom of that range, but has confirmed they are in the same ballpark.
It protects the candidate's negotiating power for the final stages of the interview process, when the hiring manager is actually emotionally invested and willing to advocate for the top of that band.
So you survive the screening phase without capping your future earning potential.
Exactly.
So the money talk is over,
Mm.
the tension naturally dissipates, the call is wrapping up, and the recruiter asks the mandatory closing question, "Do you have any questions for me?"
This is the final evaluation metric, and the sources are definitive on this point. Saying, no, I think you've covered everything, is a massive red flag.
It signals intellectual passivity.
You must have 2 to 3 strategic questions prepared, always.
And they can't be purely logistical questions like, how much PTO do I get, or what are the working hours?
No, save those for HR later.
The sources offer some strong examples, like asking about the biggest challenges the team is currently facing, or what the timeline is for making a decision. But again, looking at our role play, Kaler uses a question that operates on an entirely different psychological level.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
Taylor asks, what does success look like in this role in the first 90 days?
It is an exceptional question because it acts as a psychological primer.
Right. So what does this all mean? It forces the recruiter's brain to visualize you in the role, actively succeeding 3 months into the future.
Instead of evaluating a stranger on the phone, they're suddenly painting a mental picture of a major operational problem being solved.
It's a Jedi mind trick. But beyond the visualization, it also provides an incredible tactical advantage for the candidate, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It gives you the exact cheat sheet for the full interview.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. Whatever the recruiter says in response to that 90-day success question, whether it's untangling a chaotic database, smoothing over client relations, or speeding up a specific pipeline, is exactly the theme you need to hammer home when you speak to the hiring manager in the next round.
You are extracting their internal grading rubric.
You are. It creates a perfect feedback loop for your own preparation.
That is so smart. And then you finish the call with genuine professional enthusiasm, explicitly state that you are looking forward to the next steps, and you hang up. You've navigated the entire gauntlet.
If we look back at the through line of everything we've synthesized today, successfully controlling the phone screen is entirely about narrative framing.
Yep.
It's understanding that the recruiter's cognitive load requires you to package your complex background into a crisp, recency-biased 90-second highlight reel.
Using your talking points, not a script.
Exactly. It's about having the discipline to utilize auditory white space instead of rambling through a poorly understood question. And it's about framing the financial realities of the role as a collaborative peer-to-peer exploration rather than a rigid demand.
It totally redefines that 30-minute block of time. It stops being an interrogation where you're just hoping to say the right password, and it becomes an audition for a partnership, managed with structural precision.
It really does. And synthesizing this framework actually leaves me with a broader thought that extends far beyond just hunting for a job.
Oh, where else does this apply?
We spend so much of our professional lives meeting new people in low-context, high-friction environments. Think about the reality of modern corporate life. What if we treated every new professional interaction like introducing yourself to a new stakeholder, kicking off an internal project, or even a cross-departmental networking call like a 90-second phone screen?
That's a fascinating application. You're saying we apply the 3-part framework to daily interactions.
Exactly. If we always brought that level of structural intentionality. If, instead of rambling about our general job title, we clearly stated our most recent focus, highlighted a relevant key win to establish immediate credibility, and explicitly stated our current goal for that specific meeting.
We wouldn't just be saving time. We'd be engineering instant clarity, authority, and trust in every single interaction.
We dramatically reduce the cognitive load of everyone we work with.
That is an incredibly powerful way to look at it. The 90-second highlight reel isn't just a survival mechanism for an HR call. It is a fundamental tool for owning your narrative in any room or on any phone line.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up today, I want you to think about your own career right in this moment. If your phone rang 10 seconds from now, what is your 90-second trailer? What is the most relevant recent role, the undeniable key achievement, and the specific future goal that defines your professional identity right now? Get that structure clear in your mind, and the next time the phone rings, you won't be staring at it like a high-stakes blind date. You'll be ready to dictate the terms.
Right.
And before we go, we want to hear from you. What's the most challenging question you've been asked in a phone or video interview? And how did you handle it? Tell us in the comments.
We love to read those.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. If you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode.